And then I'll be done, and then I'll do it. So MADRE Speaks, Stories of Pride is a campaign to amplify the voices of LGBTQIA communities around the world who would otherwise face violence and oppression for their identities. So the story you're reading today is one of the anonymized stories from the open call in our networks across borders.
How do you respond to pressure from social media and the community? I am mindful that social media has different people. I expect the good and the bad. At first, I look at people with names, but still they are abused. This taught me that anyone can be abused. People who usually abuse us do not know us. Evaluate feedback. Is it valuable feedback or just trollers? I also restrict who views posts and strongly block trollers. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. What I do is not react to unnecessary bad energy. Secondly, I engage on social media thoughtfully. I only join social media platforms that influence my interests, not bandwagon stuff. I believe in myself before anyone, and no one can change that. What barriers have you faced in your career due to being a trans woman? In the community, I work well with the community. I am disciplined, social, and a community member of value, and that has helped me overcome community pressure. I was inspired by Keen Love, who has made a great reputation for herself. People love her for who she is, even when they may not believe in who she is. Growing up, I wanted to be an engineer for planes. I used to tell my father that I would become an engineer and marry a beautiful woman. When I was 16, I had started to develop visible woman-like traits. They called me effeminate. I associated with girls that participated only in girls' sports. Knowing that I come from such a staunch Muslim family, this was an embarrassment to the family. At the time, I had not known anything about transgender women. The children and teachers started complaining about me because of my identity. I was bullied, and I was expelled from several schools. Because of this, my father one day nearly killed me and disowned me. Briefly, that's how I stopped school, and it marked the end of my dream career. Some clients do not want to buy products from me because of my identity. While I'm walking, you hear some call the other, "Way, come and see your people." Tell us about the time when you had to deal with a major crisis and how you dealt with it. My worst experience continues from when I was expelled from school and my father beat me to near death in 2014. He disowned and asked me to never come to his burial. He banned me from the village and asked anyone who ever sees me to chase me away. It was around 6 p.m. that evening. That night I walked all alone in the night, thinking to myself, why me? What's next? I only had 10,000 Uganda shillings with me. What hurt most is that the community sided with him and not me, the wounded victor. I slept on the street. I managed to get to my aunt, who called my father and told him I was at her home. Daddy came and told her about my case. She chased me away as well. I walked from Kawepe to Ilingi, back to my mother's shop. She saw me and we both cried for like an hour. I cried and leaned on her lap. The first thing she did was get me some food and a bottle of soda. She told me that she will go home and get some clothes. Shortly, my mother called her assistant shopkeeper and asked me to run because my father was on his way to the shop. She directed me to a safe place where I can seek refuge and where she will find me later. That's how I started coordinating with my mother, and that's how I survived. It is a painful story. The turning point was when I joined an organization. I met people like me who welcomed me with love. At one moment, I thought I was alone, but here I was with people like me, people with shared values. I found meaning and understanding of my identity. Most of all, I found family. From then, I participated in trainings and became empowered to embrace who I was. I educated myself about life and humanity, started following people outside of my circle, and realized life is unfair to them as well. Healing from trauma has been a journey. I eventually forgave my father after realizing that he was a victim of a system that raised him that way. I use my story to inspire people to rethink kindness and cope with life's challenges. What advice do you give trans women thinking about the future? The advice I give to trans women thinking about the future is to stay in school against all odds. The current era requires education as a pass for everything. When trans women are educated, they add value to their existence and can penetrate spaces that can elevate their status, and I urge young trans women to take care of their mental health. Mental health should be a priority, and they can do this through self-care, self-love, and practicing mindfulness. What issues do you see holding trans women back in the community, and what can be done to address them and build a society that supports trans women? What holds trans women back is a lack of economic empowerment opportunities, lack of education, stigma, and discrimination hinders trans women from accessing and participating in health, social, political, and economic empowerment. This manifests through unequal pay, rejection, gender-based violence, blackmail, and criminalization. Internal stigma also plays a huge role in sabotaging the dreams for trans women. Education opportunities for trans women, because there are high risks of school dropouts. Economic empowerment opportunities, provide mental health support.
How do you feel after reading that statement?
It was really hard. It was very difficult to read this statement, especially as they shared about the experience that they had with their father and the disownment from their family and having to go from one place to the next, sort of secreted and hiding and constant fear for their life. So I think I feel personally just sort of saddened and disheartened that in this time period we are dealing with people not being treated as humans, not being treated in a way that is like filled with kindness and love. Everyone is different, and I think the sooner we accept those things, we'll be able to help each other more.
What stood out most for you?
Yeah, I think overall the ability to find oneself in this. The individual sort of shared the barriers, but they also shared how they kept pressing forward. And I know we get into like the word resiliency and like strength, but I think that they also shared like an understanding that the world is screwed up in the way that it thinks. And that is not on them to hold, but it is on them to push forward and find the ways to push back against the system. A system that's not set up for anybody, not their parents, not themselves. And so when you think about it in that way, I think while it was definitely like a hard story to sort of hear, it was something that I feel like I just wonder how I could help this community even more with what I believed.
What were the connections that you were able to make while reading through this?
Yeah, without knowing the person and fully their background, I do think of a lot of parallels just in many different communities as it relates to like what folks are taught about how folks enter this world, how that connects to religion, how that plays a part in education. Myself, I think I've seen folks go through similar instances where folks do not want to accept who a person is. I've had family members who identify as trans, who are no longer living, who turn to substance abuse, and I know that is something that could often happen when you don't have a support system that understands you and how you move through the world. And I wonder what world would be like for them if they were still living. Had they been given more support. So yeah, I think I see the parallels in that way. And that's how this impacts, I think, everyone, whether you know someone that's trans directly. I think that picking up a book, going on the internet, learning is going to be the most valuable thing that connects us all.
To freedom.
So freedom! So like after beating large person,
Yeah.